Today's top story from the perspective of someone who's there.
You are looking live.
This just in.
Not my beat.
Our interview with Kevin Burkhardt, by the way, coming up at 5:15, so we'll get to that. Then I was able to catch up with Kevin a little bit earlier today. But, Den, I feel like we could either go like the beat of like Dan Quinn, coaching hirings, college football, quarterback stuff, anybody in the draft you like on the defense. Like, there's so many different ways. Or we could just do a full, like, what's going to happen
what's
right
over
there.
here? What should we expect if you're coming? It's sold out, by the way.
It's sold out, which I feel bad then talking about it on air because either people are really excited or they're not going to be able to come.
I mean, maybe people will be scalping tickets outside. Can you imagine someone just standing on the corner of Wisconsin Avenue be like, I got 2 to 106.7 versus the team 980. Come get them.
Yeah, I mean, you might have just given someone an idea. The market demands are what they are. We were getting like a group text earlier from the boss about there's some people like had some extra tickets all of a sudden, and he walked by and I was like, can we raffle them off? And he was like, no. And I was like,
it'd be fun though.
Man.
It'd be a great interaction.
Come on, to do it like we do our fantasy football league at the beginning of the year. You call in, you tell me why you deserve the tickets. That's apparently not been shot down. I'm sorry. We'll see what shenanigans happen. You just get to sit back and watch the carnage.
Yeah, pretty much. Place. Yeah. It's going to be fun, though. I'm excited. I think it's going to be a whole lot of fun, and I think once people get a little bit of liquid courage in them, you'll start to see a side of some of your favorite hosts and some of your favorite personalities that you have not seen before. And Danny Rudy is going to be doing comedy. So I think
Danny's going to open with a roast.
Which I can't wait.
Which is like kind of – it's funny because like I feel like with a lot of our hosts, there's a lot of material that is very self-evident.
I don't think it took him long to come up with some jokes.
Yeah. I kind of wonder with me because Danny's got a couple things that he rips me for on occasion, and I'm like, I don't know what direction he's going to go, and honestly, that terrifies me.
I don't know if I'm going to be a part of it, but he did –
I was told producers are not –
yeah, so we're off limits, but his joke with me was always when I used to do updates. I did updates for Grant Daniel like once because I was usually a morning guy. They're like, hey, you'll wake up at 3 a.m., come do it.
Right.
But it was just the way that I introduced myself. So it's been a joke for a year that every time he sees me, he introduces myself like I was doing an update because apparently to him it sounded funny.
Oh.
Yeah, so I'm like, all right,
I
cool.
think a comedian, they latch on to one thing.
Yeah.
Mine's going to be something about fitness, whatever.
Fitness or something.
That's, it is what it is, which I'm going to then give into because so Den and I were talking in the break. I'm doing this terrible event that's going to be very fun called High Rocks in March, and we have like a big workout prep. Like our sim tomorrow morning, so I'm probably not going to drink, which feels like that is like – there is a level of risk in that of being on that stage sober.
Being the only person that's out there
sober. Up there, feeling some sense of responsibility and or shame. So we'll see how that goes. Or I'll just be like, somebody get me
give me something immediately.
Yeah,
I need something.
A drink. What do you want? I don't care. Give me one.
Yeah, give me something here, and this will go by so much quicker.
Yeah. So excited for that. Doors at 8 o'clock tonight if you are doors 6:30 tonight if you're on the way. Down, everything should get started around 8, but plenty of time to grab food, grab a drink, whatever it is, before Danny kicks us off here at the Bethesda Theater. Okay, let's talk about Dan Quinn, though, because that's what most of the radio audience is actually interested in. It sounds like from talking to you in the break and listening to you and Kevin the last couple of days, like you kind of are where I am on this, which is like this is a good hire. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of stuff that has to go right. But I think the thing that separates where I'm at, not necessarily from where you are, but from where a lot of other folks who aren't excited seem to be is like all the stuff that's true with Dan Quinn was true with everybody else too.
Right.
And I think that's the thing that's getting lost here is like, well, he's got to hire a great offensive coordinator. And I'm like, so would Mike McDonald. And by the way, so would Ben Johnson because otherwise he's going to fail as a head coach. Like that's just the nature of it.
Right. That's the nature of the beast. And I will admit that maybe the initial – when it was, all right, Dan Quinn's likely going to be the guy, that might have been initially underwhelming. But as you learn more about the process that the leadership for this team went through, you start to understand he was never like the last guy on the list. Everyone's like, this is Jim Zorn all over again. And it is not like I think people forget what the Jim Zorn process was actually like. Right, because it was like we hired this dude as offensive coordinator, and then in the middle of the night, we can't get anybody else. All right, we'll just give him the head coaching. This was not that at all. They interviewed everybody. Ben Johnson apparently wasn't the greatest interview from the jump, and it's very clear. Look, I mean, like, we've all done hard things in life, right? We've all broken up with people. If you do it via text versus in person, That's whack, right? So imagine doing an interview process, pulling out, not actually telling them while they're en route to you, and you decide I'm not there. So that when I heard that he wasn't a great interview, and then we knew how he pulled out, that all made sense all of a sudden, right? And I think what Dan Quinn is going to do is he is a terrific leader, right? But all of his dudes that he's ever coached love him, all of them. Like we're in an era where player empowerment is greater than ever, right? Everybody has a podcast, and it's great. There's a lot of stories that are coming out about a lot of coaches that we kind of thought, but we never really knew. No one has ever said anything bad about Dan Quinn. And that to me is very, very telling. So, yeah, he has to nail the offensive coordinator, but duh, like, welcome to the NFL.
Right. And as I said, the offensive coordinator turned head coaches also have to hire a great OC to buttress them so that they can continue to have play calling responsibilities, but put together a good game plan during the week. Nevertheless, a good defensive coordinator, obviously. One of the OC names that has come up that I think is particularly good to ask you about, Mr. Late Night College Football Man. For those that don't know, Denton also doing great work at SiriusXM and their college football stuff, and you had the late show.
Yeah.
So you watched plenty of the Pac-12.
Right.
Chip Kelly, UCLA. What he does out there and what you think he could be as an NFL offensive coordinator, position he's never had, by the way.
Yes.
He was an NFL head coach for 4 years, 3 in Philly, 1 in San Francisco. What do you make of Chip as an OC candidate?
If you were just taking his mind for offense, I'd be thrilled. Because I think he's a guy that is really good at adapting to his situation. You got to do that in college because, especially now, guys are in, they're out. You have to be really good at adapting your situation. So if it was just hiring the offensive mind of Chip Kelly, I'd be all for it. We should do it yesterday. But there is the person, too. And what Chip Kelly's biggest downfall was in the NFL is that he tried to coach an NFL team like a college coach, where college coaches have all the power. They dictate when you wake up, what you eat, when you go to class. They dictate everything, and you can't do that in the NFL. These are grown men. These are grown professionals. So, yes, he would not be the head coach, so he would not be in a position theoretically where he could be dictating everything, but I do wonder how that transition will be on the person of Chip Kelly going from being a head coach in college to the NFL, going back to college, and now taking a position where you do not have the final say on everything. That's a very tough thing to do, and it's not like he was forced into that, right? Like there's certain guys where you're not a head coach anymore. It's just you failed enough to where you're not a head coach anymore. You have to accept this reality. But I think if he is choosing to do that, I do wonder if he actually is fully grasping what he would be walking into. So that makes me a little nervous as far as Chip Kelly goes. And we've seen him bolt before, right? It's like we've seen him bolt. And I think there are other guys that would be available that are really, really good that you would not have to worry about bolting immediately if something better came up.
So I don't disagree with you on a lot of what you just said, and especially the last thing, that there are other candidates that I like more. But I do think that Chip is interesting in that San Francisco, like his reputation in San Francisco was much better than it was in Philly.
Yes.
Some of that stuff that he tried in Philly, he went to San Francisco and was like, okay, I understand.
Right.
Like I do think he learned from that experience. He also went 2-14 because that roster was poopsy.
It was terrible.
I was looking at it earlier today.
It was a bad roster.
It was a bad football team. So that reality is what it is. And you know, do you want a guy whose last stop in the NFL was 2-14 as a head coach? I mean, and it was also a long time ago. Like that was 2014, I think.
It was around. I think it was 2016. It was before Shanahan.
Yeah, it was 2016. You're
but
right.
I do recognize. So like one of the things that I'm excited about Dan Quinn is that he's been in this position before, and he has an opportunity to learn from the mistakes. So I recognize that kind of bashing Chip Kelly for his mistakes is a little hypocritical, but that my biggest concern is just that because Dan Quinn's mistakes felt like they were less ruling with an iron fist and things just didn't go right. So I'm a little skeptical about Chip Kelly. But as you said, like I do think there are better options that maybe aren't as flashy. Maybe it would actually get some people riled up in a negative way, but I think there are better options out there.
I need my guy Teresh to tweet me, which inevitably he will because he's always listening, and he is the king of connections. Resh Manuel on Twitter. I'm sure you follow. Like I also wonder about the tree thing. You know, you get someone from the Kyle, the Sean, that tree. There's going to be other options if you do ultimately have the success that we hope that they have in Klint Kubiak or Brian Greasy or whoever.
So who is your number one? Do you have a number one?
I don't particularly. I mean, I'm very intrigued by Klint Kubiak, 36 years old, and he's in the exact role that McDaniel and Slowick have been in.
Yes.
Like, the guys that have done that job for Kyle Shanahan know how to then go to the next job and do really well.
Right.
And I think the familiarity of Dan and Kyle, I think clearly whatever that position sets you up for, and the long term, like, and also I think that offense is good for young quarterbacks, right?
Yes.
Like, if you are, hey, we're going to run the mess out of the ball until you react to it, and then we're going to hit you with a bunch of great play action stuff, like, that's appealing. And they've also, I think people from that tree have been able to adapt that offense to personnel, whether it's the speed in Miami that McDaniels has done, C.J. Stroud's strengths and some of the very specific receiver strengths in Houston, and, by the way, hiding a bad O-line kind of in both places.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of things to like about that scheme, which is why it's now run by, 70% of the league.
I'm intrigued by Klint Kubiak, but I will say one of the guys that I have found myself gravitating back towards is Frank Reich, because I think he got a raw deal in Carolina. Like, I wouldn't want to coach in Carolina. Like, I wish the best for Canales. I mean, that's going to be a tough spot to be in just because of the owner. But you look at what he's done with quarterbacks, and I do think there is an element, and maybe this is going to come off negative, but I don't know if he's going to be in the running for a head coaching job again. So you don't run the risk of having a good offense for a couple years or even just a year, and then he gets poached. So I think if you're in the process that the team is going to be in, where you're going to build ideally for the next couple of years, and with a quarterback that is likely either going to be Drake May or Jaden Daniels. I mean, maybe some crazy happens and Caleb Williams is available. But, like, I think a guy like Frank Reich, if it is Drake May, I mean, I think he's over the moon with a guy like him.
I don't know enough about Reich's personality. I mean, it seems like Dan Quinn can get along with anybody. That seems to be the thing. I don't know about Reich's personality. And
he's
how
a
that
football
works.
dude. I've met him before. He's a football dude.
He's a Terp, which would be fun. You'd have a Salisbury guy and a Maryland guy running the Commanders, so that would certainly make the state of Maryland very happy. He's interesting because, like, for as horrible as Carson Wentz was here, and he wasn't exactly great in Indy, they did find a way to go 9-4 or whatever it was down the stretch with him. Like, it was crazy.
I think they might have had 11 wins.
Yeah, like, so that was Carson Wentz's last serviceable year in the NFL.
Oh, you're talking Indy. I thought you meant the year in Philly where he nearly won MVP when Reich was his OC.
that was pre-injury.
Yeah.
Wentz,
you're right.
Reich has a huge part in that. That's kind of his claim to fame.
Right.
But yeah, I mean,
because this dude got a statue of Nick Foles erected in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's on the top of the resume, because God bless Nick Foles, but, like, he got $88 million because of that one playoff run and never really accounted for much after that. Dude's out of the league, which is nuts because that Super Bowl wasn't that long ago. Denton Day, you can hear him obviously with Kevin Sheehan, weekdays 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Appreciate you stopping by, sir. Absolutely. Hope to see everybody out there, and it's going to be a fun time.
Yeah, it will be. And next, you'll hear my conversation with Fox Sports lead play-by-play man, Kevin Burkhardt. He's called more Cowboys games than anyone, so I was like, that's a good guess. Let's get Kevin. You'll hear my chat with Burkhardt next.
This is The Hoffman Show on the Team 980 and the Odyssey app.